Okay, we are live. Welcome, Michael Gibian. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Rain. I'm so excited to see what we end up chatting about.
Yes, me too. Me too. And I'm excited to see who shows up, if anyone. This is live on Substack. And then when we're done, it will immediately be broadcast to YouTube. So, hello, Substack. Hello, YouTube. Hello, anyone who comes across this live or recording. So, Michael, you have been on my podcast, Every Moment is Sacred, 2 times.
Yep.
And I love both the episodes. And I have a meditation student who listened to the first one recently, and she was awestruck by your knowledge and by your in depth answering of my questions. And when you recall those 2 podcast episodes, what stands out to you? What is still ringing in your heart from that time together?
Hmm. I remember in our first one, it felt really personal. It was so much, as I recall, about my own path. And in our second, it was more towards my books, but they're also reflecting my path as well. And in this latest book, it's sort of returned to it's my most personal book by far, in that I'm attempting to teach through stories that are my own life. I didn't anticipate that, um, but but that's how it came out, and so that's really I feel like I'm wanting readers and listeners and followers and students to know that I'm right here doing the work as well, not from on high by any means,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm in the daily life like everybody else, as a householder, as a partner, as a father, as a helper, and so um, I hope that helps people relate in a way that feels approachable. That's really my goal.
Mm-hmm. Yes, the 2 books I have of yours, the first 2 of the 5 keys, are very relatable and
Good.
speak directly to the human experience as I know it. And I know that some of my clients really love your books, some of my counseling clients. So thank you for that work.
Yeah,
And
of course.
just as a kind of a snapshot, what are the 5 keys and what is the 5 keys series?
The Five Keys series um, is my distillation of what I call psychological literacy. It's my take on some really core uh, developmental milestones that I think everybody might want to work with. And then the series grew out of that because the first book I think of as very um, intrapersonal, very inward looking. And then the second book takes those principles and then turns them outward into relationship, um, in part because students of mine and myself included found that as much as we do, and I think a lot of people that might listen to this might relate, is that we could be doing our own work, but then as soon as we get into relationship with others, sometimes we find ourselves getting dysregulated and falling out of our center, uh, because it's really different to be grounded and centered and connected on our own, and then suddenly in relationship to reality and other people. And so um, the very first key, and I do feel like they're somewhat hierarchical and that they build on each other, but the very first key is to feel everything. And I feel like this is pretty central. And I know that as a headline, people might push back a little bit, like really feel everything. Um, and so as appropriate and with the right support, of course, as caveats. But I feel like letting reality be as it is, and from my being able to uh, stay connected with it as it is without having to push levers of craving and aversion, or wanting and not wanting, or liking and not liking, is really powerful. And learning to stay stabilized and regulated in my nervous system with whatever comes is part of that feel everything. And that's part of why I feel it's so foundational.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
And for those who easily get flooded, or they already know this about themselves, that to feel everything might sound intimidating or scary,
Yeah.
what is the right support that would support feeling more or feeling everything?
Support can be from having a regular sitting practice. It can be from having the right community, friends, and partner. It can be having a great therapist or wise counsel. It could be time in nature.
Mm-hmm.
It can be really tailored to what each of us need. I have a slightly unconventional, as an American, take on therapy, and that I don't think people need to wait till their problems are uh, insurmountable to be in therapy. I feel like therapy, if one can afford it, might be something we do uh, ongoingly or intermittently as things come up. Because the truth is, as much as I love my friends, it isn't fair to them, nor are they always equipped to be more than a shoulder to cry on.
Mm-hmm.
And so sometimes turning to uh, the right wise other, and sometimes that's a professional, is so powerful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, those are great suggestions. And I know that people on Substack that I interact with often are very into nature. So I think there's a lot of people who can resonate with nature as a support.
Good. That happens to be one of my particular favorites. I feel like estrangement from nature, from our natural state, um, is a pretty big issue for most people in the modern world these days.
Yeah, and speaking of nature, I'm in a downpour of rain right now.
Mm,
So I'm kind of watching it out my window. It's so beautiful. But I also know that there are parts of our country that have a lot of smoke from wildfires.
yeah.
And you being in Santa Barbara, California, and I used to live in California, I have so much compassion for what that is like when there is a hazardous amount of smoke. Do
Yeah.
you have some memories of those times where you live?
Sure. Yeah, we've had wildfires really close by, um, where people get evacuated, and the
Hmm.
air is really unsafe to breathe. And it's super scary. Yeah. And not very far from here, just south in LA, the Pacific Palisades,
Yeah.
basically all burnt down. That's where my wife grew up, and her childhood home is gone along with the whole neighborhood. And yeah, it's very sad. And that's not the nature that I think of when I think of turning to nature as a resource, of course.
Of course, but it's for me, it's worth mentioning because especially those of us who love the earth and
Yeah,
who love nature are feeling this climate change and different kinds of natural disasters. And even people who are not believers of climate change are experiencing natural
right,
disasters.
right.
So it's a unifying part of our humanity that we have the earth that we live on. And meditation and mindfulness, different healing practices are really needed when there are catastrophes.
Yes.
So I wanted to bridge the two, the beauty of healing, and also there are things in our time right now that are scary, unsafe, needing healing. And here we have meditation, mindfulness, the five keys. How do we even begin to address such hardships?
Yeah, well, the thing that comes to mind, and this is in a way the central theme of my latest book, which is called Maybe, The Gift of Not Knowing, is that there are two kinds of pain. And I think this might address what you're talking about. The first kind of pain is the inevitable pain of a life where we care about things and we care about people that pass, that change, that die. And so in terms of climate change, that would certainly apply. And so that's painful. And that's the inevitable and appropriate pain that comes with being human and having a life that we care about things where we're engaged. The second kind of pain, which is actually optional, is what I think of as suffering, which is the pain we add on top by not wanting reality to be the way it is. And so uh, the heating, like you think about parts of the US or in Europe where it's extremely hot right now, it's painful to think about what that really means. But then if we pile on top of that, wanting it to be different than it is, then we're actually causing our own suffering that's in addition to the inevitable pain. And
Mhm.
so a big thread through this book is how do we tease those apart and how do we be more onto ourselves in a way that creates a condition where we're more aligned with how reality actually is and suffer less as a result of it.
Mhm. Yes, and I'm remembering in your bio, I think there's a statement about transforming pain into wisdom.
Mm. Yeah,
How
that
do
would be
we do
wonderful.
that?
Yeah, yeah.
How do we do that?
Yeah, it can be a tall order, right? It can feel like how is that even possible? And I do feel like it starts with this idea that let's examine the places in our lives where pain is just the inevitable. My second mother, my grandmother, when she died, um, there was the appropriateness of grieving and the pain that came with her passing, and at the same time, there was an upwelling and an aliveness for how right it was to grieve somebody that was so important to me. And so to
Mhm.
feel those two things commingling, that there's the rightness of the pain, is the beginning of how we can start to feel into the subtlety of that. And then in time, we can start to, without bypassing feeling that feeling, we can start to derive meaning from our painful experiences.
Mhm.
And that meaning starts to become how we then maybe help others through what we've experienced. And that, I believe, is part of how we get to the wisdom part.
Mhm. Yes, I hear so much allowing in what you're describing. Would you say that allowing is helpful or important in the process?
Absolutely. And I actually think of not just allowing, but actual curiosity,
Mhm.
which has more of a tinge of leaning forward to it and being in wondering, like, where will this take me? What will come next, in a really open, curious way, which in a way really clears out any judgment and rigidity and concretizing we might have about how uncomfortable this can feel. And if we can lean forward a little bit with curiosity and allowing, I think that goes a long way.
Mhm. So wise. And I want to welcome Linda. She just joined. She's a meditation student of mine, but she's also a new fan of yours, Michael. So,
Hi, Linda.
oh, she says she can't hear us. So, see, make sure your volume is up. And thinking about if there's anything I can do to double check here. Um, yeah, start with making sure your volume is up and let me know how it goes. I'll type in the chat too. And maybe this would be a good time for a mindfulness or meditation practice or something that you have tucked up your sleeve, Michael. What do you think?
Sure, sure. So, in this new book, maybe I have 4 or 5 practices. But I I have such a bias towards uh, somaticizing mindfulness practice. I really try and take it out of just cognition and intellectual understanding and really take it into the body. I think my body and our bodies are really wise. So in the book, I talk about um, trying to sometimes listen for the storyteller under the story. And so this practice is about uh, getting really present and listening for the storyteller, for the story, the storyteller, and then one step beyond that. So, should I just jump into that?
Yes, jump
Okay.
in. And
Okay.
I'm going to, you'll see me look away, but I'm still listening. So
Of course, no problem. Yeah.
give it to me.
Yeah. So, why don't we start with, if you're comfortable, we can close our eyes. If not, just have a nice, soft focus and begin with feeling the support of the chair or the floor or whatever you're sitting and leaning on. Just notice the support and feel your spine rising out of your pelvis upwards towards your head. And notice your breath. No need to change it, just let your breath naturally moving in and out, coming and going. And maybe notice the quality of the air around your skin. Maybe it's warm or cool or a combination. And as you start to settle, see if you can feel into a story that's present for you. It might be something like, they always do that. They never let me. I'm always misunderstood. It doesn't have to be a really big story, and maybe it's better to keep it mild. And as you feel into that, I want you to let that story inform how you feel and where you feel your body. Maybe you notice tension or holding. Maybe you notice a temperature change. Maybe a feeling. And as you feel that story and you hear the story, let yourself be curious about who's telling that story. Who's telling this story? And see if you can feel where in your body you feel the storyteller. How does this storyteller organize in your body? So now you're feeling your breath and the seat cushion and the space around you. Maybe you're hearing a story, and maybe you're feeling the storyteller and where they're organized and how they show up in your body. And with all this, then see if you can feel under all of that to who's listening to the story, who's feeling your feelings, who's the one experiencing the storyteller telling their story. Good. And just like that, coming back. If your eyes are closed, open them, feel the space around you. That was a little bit of feeling into the storyteller and also feeling under for who's listening to the storyteller.
Wow. I really got in touch with this dysregulated part of me who was very present in my teenage and young adult years, but also as a child. And this dysregulated part was just so frustrated. And the message was, this never works. Things never work for me.
Mm-hmm.
Very angry.
Yeah.
Angry in frustration.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you for allowing me to honor this part of myself and listen to her story, really
Yeah,
the emotional story of her.
Yeah, and what I would add is ideally we want to listen with care, like we would a young child is saying that to us, with some compassion and empathy. We're not trying to fix how she feels in that moment. We're just there for her, letting her know that she's not alone.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, it was helpful for me to first hear the message, notice the frustration, but then understand that it was dysregulation. It was my own, but the her that lives inside of me,
Yeah.
the dysregulation that really needs to be addressed.
Yeah. And were you able to feel who the listener to the story and the dysregulation was?
This part is a little bit of a mystery for me because I want to say me, like,
Yeah.
51-year-old Rain.
Yeah.
So maybe I need a little more information about that. Maybe I need a little more guidance there.
Yeah, so it was just a very quick peek, almost like, look, there's this doorway over here that's available to us, right? We didn't really go there. But if we were to go there, what we'd find is what I refer to as our core self. And our core self has qualities of clarity and compassion and kindness and connectedness. And what's so powerful about opening and going in through that doorway towards core self is we can look back at, as you put it, the dysregulated self, and we have some space. And that space allows us to stay curious and open to what that part has to say in a way that isn't from the inside of the story. We get to say, we get to feel, part of me feels that way, rather than that's my whole reality. And that's really powerful, really powerful. And I feel like at some point we're either sustaining core self, living from core self, or we're figuring out how to wake up from the dream of that dysregulated self. Because unfortunately, that young part of Rain or any of us doesn't have the solution to the problem that she has. And so the solution is to wake up from that dream and solve it from the outside.
Yes, and how do we wake up from the dream? I mean, this is really the core of so much healing and embodiment work.
Yeah,
How are the 5 keys what unlocks the door and wakes us up from the dream? How do we wake up?
they can be. They can be. I have an even quicker way, which is at any moment, anyone, I practice this regularly. I ask myself, so here's the next moment of my life. Is this how I want it to be? And
Mm,
when when I introspect into that, not just as a intellectual exercise, but as a somatic experience, when I feel into, is this how I want it to be? I'm feeling for the yes or the no. And they're both going to be there, but I have to feel for which one's stronger in that moment, right? The
mhm,
dysregulated part is the yes, this is how I want it to be. Damn it. I want to be the one who's the victim of my situation. And in that moment, that's what we work with. But when we can start to feel even the whisper of no, there's another way,
mhm,
then we follow that trail of breadcrumbs, and that takes us to the core self.
mhm.
And then we
And
start to embody that. We start to feel that in our body. All those qualities of the compassion and the connected and the clarity start to arrive. They're always there. They've always been there, but
mhm,
they're occluded by the the dream of this dysregulated self.
mhm, mhm. And you're reminding me of another conversation we had. There's an echo of it about the the pain and the massage, like the hammer on the foot or the massage. Like, what do you want? Do you want the
Right,
pain of the hammer on the foot, or do
right,
you want your life to feel like a luxurious, relaxing massage?
right, right. Exactly. And to be fair, the the category of massage includes the painful bits too. Sometimes massage is a hurt so good situation,
Mm-hmm.
right? So to be fair, because I think some listener might say, well, life's not always like a massage, right? So of course, but we what we're trying to do is align ourselves with um, ideally with reality as it is in this moment, and that's the massage version. The hammer
Mm-hmm.
version is where we're piling the suffering on top of it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, no need to pile that suffering on top of pain.
No, no, the pain
Yeah.
that's inherent is plenty.
That's right. And we can feel the pain all the way through. We can breathe through it. We can use practices and all these supports. And we
Yeah,
can get to the other side. We really can.
absolutely. It also is a way where I feel what one of my teachers, Thich Nhat Hanh, used to talk about. He referred to it as interbeing, which is the sort of the nature of interconnectedness. Through feeling my pain, I feel even more connected to everyone else through going through my pain and connecting to other pain
Mhm,
through the compassion, through the empathy, through not feeling
mhm,
alone, through knowing I'm not alone in this, and
mhm,
nor is anybody else. We can feel it through our joy as well. But feeling into our pain is a really powerful portal towards feeling connected
mhm. So are
because
you,
we are all in this together.
we really are. And I love Thich Nhat Hanh's teachings, and I did not know him personally. Were you able to be a student of
Yeah.
his in
Yes.
person?
Yes.
What was that like?
Uh, he was both very grounded and human and almost otherworldly at the same time.
Mm,
He had arrived at such deep peace through his deep pain. He was
mm,
from Vietnam. He was a dissident. He couldn't return to his homeland because he protested against the Vietnam War from the Vietnamese side. And like so many great leaders, I think of His Holiness the Dalai Lama as well, through such enduring of pain, really, like really feeling that, almost feeling the pain of his people, and then through that, the pain of all people, came out the other side with such deep peace that just being with him was contagious. And one
Wow.
of my favorite practices of his, and getting to do it live, was the walking meditation, where we would walk with hundreds of us, and he would gather the children around him, and we would walk mindfully together, and it was really beautiful. I feel so blessed to have
Mhm.
been there.
I'm receiving blessings just hearing about your experience. How long would that mindfulness walking meditation, how long would that last? Would you do it for five
It could
minutes
be,
or
no, it could be 30 minutes up to an hour,
Mhm,
maybe. Yeah,
mhm,
yeah. There were elders and small children, and so it wasn't super long,
mhm,
but long enough to drink it in, and then hopefully all those people, myself included, would be inspired to keep spreading that.
mhm.
That
And you
that I think
are.
that was, yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
So with the interbeing, is it that I have the opportunity to feel my pain, and through going all the way through my pain, I am connected with the pain, with the greater pain, the pain of humanity, of the earth, or something larger than myself. And in that interconnectivity, there arises some peace, not because there's not pain, but because we are connected and we're all in it together, sharing a conscious experience. I'm playing with words. I mean, how would you talk this through?
I would say yes, and the interconnectedness isn't just among us humans, it's the
Mhm,
interconnectedness of our natural state as part of the natural world.
mhm,
When I can feel my pain, I'm practicing not being at odds with reality as it is. And so when I can drop my defenses and allow reality to be as it is, I'm I'm restoring myself as part of the natural order, and that's the deepest interbeing I think there is. So it includes all other humans, sentient beings even, but it's
mhm,
the natural world as my home, as home with a capital H. And I feel like
mhm,
when I feel home, and that's within myself and within the universe, then I'm also interbeing with all other humans, but with the natural world around me. And so that includes forest fires and big
yeah.
storms and perfect sunny days and the beautiful ocean and tar in the sand. I mean, it includes the warts
Mhm,
and all.
mhm, mhm. And for you, does a oneness arrive? Like, so there are separations, and in some spiritual traditions, we would say there are apparent separations, that we have the ability to have this conversation because there's apparent separateness. And
Yeah.
yet, deep down, perhaps through this interbeing or through other language, there's this wholeness, this oneness where the separations dissolve and the all that is becomes known as not separate from all that ever was or all that ever will be.
I'm going to say yes and to that as well. I want to advocate for the person out there who whose relationship to their ego would be challenged
Yeah.
by the vastness of oneness. I
Mhm.
want that person to feel safe in this conversation. And so the yes and is that it's both simultaneously true that I'm a sovereign individual being and completely connected to the oneness, both at the same time. The metaphor that I like the most about this is the way an individual wave crests out of the ocean and then crashes down, becomes a foam, and then returns, and was never separate from the ocean, but was an individual expression of that individual wave that's never been before and never will be again, and yet never separate. And so that's the kind of thing we might need to hold in our imagination, is that I'm both an individual expression and yet completely one with the whole at the same time. There's these
Well
sort of
said.
dueling imperatives of individuating, right? To have a nice stable ego strength. I want to individuate as a human, but at the same time, where I came from and where I'm headed and what's always true under that is the interbeing, the oneness.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
they're not at
absolutely.
odds.
Thank you. I love the way you shared that. I'm on board. I'm on my surfboard riding the wave.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, who doesn't want to do that? Yeah.
And you have a beautiful background behind you, the blue, and it looks like maybe a whale or porpoise. But where are you, Michael?
I'm actually in my backyard, and it's such a really lovely day right now. And this is actually behind me. It's a mural that I painted, and
Wow.
it's kind of a landscape, really simple landscape of the backcountry of Santa Barbara, over the mountains behind us here. We have the ocean and the mountains right behind, and just over the hill, we have a lot of undeveloped land. And so I like to spend a lot of time back there where I'm charging my batteries. And so I brought it home with me and painted it here.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's wonderful. And I wanted to ask you about creativity. So here we have it. Visual arts. Is is this another skill of yours?
I went to art school. I from as early as I can remember, right through university, I identified as an artist, um, and eventually dropped that as wanting to do that as a profession. But I do think of myself as a creative person, and for so many of us, whether it's journaling or painting or scribbling, or I currently, my creative outlet is mainly photography. When we travel, I love taking photos. It's just a great excuse to slow down and pause. And I think of there were some great Zen teachers that were photographers that try and bring the quality of Zen through in their photography. And I don't know that I'm always doing that, but I do like capturing the moment. Yeah. So I think that everybody can be creative. We just have to find the way that speaks to us and that we feel comfortable expressing and letting loose. I studied dance for a long time, and so the moving body is a big part of self-expression for me as well.
Thank you for sharing about that. I'm just somatically resonating with your creativity. So, how about the unknown? And your first books are the Five Keys, and then there's the book about the unknown, which is titled Maybe.
Yeah, maybe the gift of not knowing.
Maybe the gift of not knowing. And how so often I sit with folks who are they have a relationship with the unknown that causes them to back away a bit or feel unsure. And personally, I know the realm of creativity and meditation and mindfulness, healing to all be expressions of the unknown manifesting itself in real time. What wisdom do you have to share about the unknown?
So the the book maybe puts forward a really simple idea that I took a whole book to write about, which is when we can uh, suspend what I call having a verdict about what this moment means. So the sort of normal mode that most of us operate from, myself included, is that, oh, it's a hot day. I don't like it to be hot. I'd wish it was cooler. Or, oh, they don't have my favorite chocolate ice cream, so I have to get another flavor. Or those are obviously very mundane versions. And then there could be, much heavier versions of reality that I'm trying to navigate. And when I can suspend having a verdict about it, when I can just let the practice of maybe, meaning, so this is inspired by a Zen parable, and the the basic idea is that when something happens, if I can pause long enough to say, well, maybe, meaning let's see where this next moment takes us. I don't have to decide that this is good or bad or easy or hard. When I can pull it off, and not as a bypass, not as a looking away, not as a trying to not meet the moment, as a somatic practice where the maybe actually leads me to meeting the moment even more fully, not
Mm.
less. When I can pull that off in the moment, I'm more connected to myself and to the moment and to the natural world all at the same time. And that seems like a worthy endeavor.
Mhm.
I'm super motivated. I know I've said this to you before. I'm super motivated not to suffer unnecessarily. And I
Yeah.
really like helping people do the same. And I feel like this practice uh, can be built on the foundation of a sitting practice, a formal meditation practice, but it's also in the spirit of Thich Nhat Hanh's, like, wash the dishes mindfully, vacuum mindfully. And so maybe as a somatic practice is portable. Everywhere I go, each moment, I can choose to let the moment just play out without having a verdict about what it means and where it's leading to, and that I like it or don't. And that's the whole premise of the book. And of course, I go into a lot more detail, but
Mhm.
it's it's really profound.
Mhm. I hear and feel a lot of presence in your description. People on Substack love books. So where can everybody find your books?
They can find them at the moment on Amazon.
Mhm.
I think if you go into Amazon and you type in my name, it sometimes wants to kick you to Khalil Gibran, right?
Oh,
So be careful with that, because then it takes you to his books, which are amazing books. So buy those too,
yeah.
of course. But if you put in my name and the 5 keys, or you put in my name and maybe, then it'll take you to, there's an author page there, and it has all of my books. And
Mhm. Okay.
yeah, yeah,
So
that's the
Michael
easiest way.
Gibian.
Yeah, Michael Gibian, the five
Mhm.
keys, or Michael Gibian maybe, and
Mhm.
that'll get people there.
Great. And also, because so many people here on this platform are in different stages of publication, how did you find the publishing process for yourself? What did you do in a nutshell? How was it fun? Was it hard? How was it for you?
I really enjoyed it. I've really come to love this process of writing, and Amazon has made the self-publishing really streamlined. Now that I've done it, it's super easy. Um, what I'm doing everything myself, and so I use a software called Atticus, which is for formatting, because you have to deliver the book in a particular format for Amazon, and so I use Atticus for that. And then you upload it. I do the cover art all myself. I do that in Canva, which is a great graphic design platform. And then I upload that as well. Um, I don't know if I'd say it's easy, but it's streamlined. And
Mhm.
what I like about the platform is people everywhere can access it, and their delivery is incredibly fast. And they offer me author copies at basically cost and shipping, so I get an opportunity to buy books affordably and sell them directly as well. Um, those don't come quickly. They
Mhm.
really preference people that are paying for them. But that's so it feels like a great platform. I would love to sell in my favorite local bookshops, but that's a whole other
Mhm.
set of hoops, because to do that you have to publish through a wholesaler,
Mhm.
um, and then you're competing with hundreds of thousands of other titles, and my local bookshop doesn't necessarily buy from me just because I'm local. So
Mhm.
Amazon is a whatever people think about it, is it's a great equalizer in that way.
Mhm. Wonderful. Thank you for your
Yeah,
experience and those
yeah,
tips.
yeah, of course.
So, other than the books, are you also working with clients or groups these days, or do you have other offerings that you would like people to know about?
Yeah, I'm probably primarily working one-on-one with people right now.
Mhm.
I periodically offer groups based on the different 5 keys segments, and those are 6 weeks long, and they're more affordable because they're a group. It's all via Zoom. And then the one-on-one is can be live or Zoom, depending on if the person's local to me, of course, or not.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah, yeah, and all of that people can read more about that on my website, which is michaelgibian.com.
Mhm. Super, super. Well, thank you so much for being here. And is there anything that we didn't touch on or you'd like to return to that's present for you and feels important?
Um, if we have time, I want to share one more practice. It's not a guided
Yes.
practice, but it's also out of this book, and I feel like it's really powerful as well. And it's what I call updating the file, and it's relational. And so I think most of us can think of another person where when we think of them, we have ideas about what they stand for and who they are and what they're about. And there's a real danger of freezing our notion about other people in a way that leads to not being in relationship with who they actually are, but what our idea about them is. And so
Yes.
it's a simple practice of it's actually my wife Jen who came up with this, and it's something simple like if I say something surprising to her, like I say, "Yeah, I'd love to go out and stay up late," she might say, "Oh, interesting. Because I have a file on you that says you prefer to go to bed early." And it's just that simple, where we just keep updating our file on each other, so we're actually in relationship with the actual other, who's dynamic and constantly evolving, and a multiplicity on top of it, rather than relating to them through this fixed idea. And in the book, I
Mhm.
tell a story about a couple who were married, let's say 50 years. And for those 50 years, the wife always gave the husband um, the, the heel of the bread at their meals. And after decades being together, on his deathbed, he said, we've had an amazing life together. But the one regret I have is that all this time you've been giving me the heel of the bread, which I never liked. And his and his this it's kind of tragically funny at the same time. And his wife looks at him and says, "Oh, darling, all this time I've been giving you my favorite part of the loaf." And so updating the file isn't just about uh, the lack of love. In this case, she loved him so much, she gave him her favorite part, but she didn't take the time to see if the love she was sharing was actually being received. And I think that's what's at the heart of updating the file, is letting the love be measured by how it's received, not how I give it. And I think that can be really powerful for any two people, especially couples or significant others.
Oh, huge teaching. Huge teaching. Thank you. Thank you very much for that teaching. We all need to hear that. I need to hear that. I
Yeah,
imagine other people do too.
yeah, yeah. And it becomes fun because we, I think a lot of people might relate to where if you're in a relationship for long enough, the botherations about the other hopefully just become funnier, more humorous, and things to giggle about rather than, oh, you again. And the updating the file is a way to replace the eye roll, which is kind of damaging, if not outright damaging, to
Mm-hmm.
with well, let me update, let me learn who you really are today. And
Yeah.
the gift for the person on the receiving end of that is, oh, I get to be my full self. I don't have to actually shrink myself to meet the vision you have of me. I actually get to be my fullness. All of me is welcome here. And you've shown me that because you've taken the time to learn who I really am
Mm-hmm.
over and over again.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Mm. So good. So good, Michael. And it takes an incredible amount of vulnerability to do that too, to really look at somebody who one thinks one knows and to remember, I might not know everything. And this is a brand new moment. So whether or not I knew everything before, which I probably did not,
Yeah,
we're also both brand new people right now.
right, right. It's a real gift, especially to the other, to feel like, wow, you really want to know who I really am. So therefore it's like an invitation, like, oh, okay, well, this is who I, and so each time I get to keep bringing my fullest self, which I think is really important in a
Mhm.
relationship. And to get to know, I mean, the Gottmans, who are some of my favorite people about relationship
Mhm.
psychology, have a great app which is free, and it's a way to initiate conversations with your beloved that start to sort of investigate maybe things that you never knew about them. And so that's another playful way to do it. Sometimes when my wife and I are in a restaurant and we're waiting for the food to be served, we'll pull out the app and be like, oh, that's interesting. I'd never thought to ask you that because we've been together 25 years. And
Mhm.
so there are lots of ways, but the updating the file is like, it's just a playful way to, oh, that's interesting. I have a file on you, so tell me more. And
Mhm.
it's an opportunity.
I love it. Yes. Update the file. And John and Julie Gottman are who you're referring to
Yeah.
with the Gottman Institute. They have a great body of work. It's all research based. And John was the original researcher, and Julie was like, hey, we need to bring this to the people. We need to make this a clinical practice so other people can learn about it and practice these skills of happy relating, successful relating.
Yes, I'm a huge fan of theirs, and I feel like they're four horsemen. Everybody in a relationship should know about this.
Hmm.
It seems like if you care about your relationship, you should check this out.
Hmm. Yeah. So just tell us the four horsemen because this really is that important for everyone to know.
I'm gonna forget them, but the one that
I'll
came to
help.
mind was when I talked about the eye roll. That's
Hmm.
what we think of as a subtle version of contempt. And so
Yes.
the premise is that the Gottman's research showed that they could predict a couple's staying together or not really well based on these four criteria. And if you have too many of them in too large of an amount, your relationship is going to suffer, if not doomed. And contempt was
Hmm.
probably the biggest one
Yes.
because it's such an eroder of trust and
Hmm.
safety and feeling invited in to be yourself.
Hmm.
That's the one I always remember and
Hmm.
seems pretty important.
It really is important. And then there's stonewalling.
Right, right.
Mhm.
Which I guess now we kind of refer to as gaslighting, right? Or maybe those are variations on a theme.
Yeah, that would be a really good question for them. What would they say about
Mhm.
stonewalling and gaslighting? How are they similar and different?
Yeah, yeah. In either case, it's a version of
Hmm.
I don't really care what you have to say or what your
Hmm.
perspective is.
Hmm.
I now have laid down the law, or this is how I'm choosing to see it. Not really
Hmm.
interested in going further.
Yeah.
Clearly not a ideal way to operate.
Hmm. And then there is criticism and defensiveness.
Yes.
So, all for a longer conversation another time, but
Yeah.
don't do any of those things, folks. Instead, we can turn toward our partner or whoever we're in contact with, and we can update the file, like Michael
Yes.
was suggesting.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd love to hear if people try it, what they think.
Mhm. Yes, me too. So, as everyone knows, this is on Substack forever, likely, and then broadcast to YouTube forever, likely. And then it will also show up on the podcast Every Moment is Sacred, which is on every podcasting platform. So you can look for me, rainelizabeth.org, and find the show and the things that I do. I love healing and meditation and meeting wonderful people like Michael Gibian.
Thank
Thank
you
you for
so
being
much. This
here.
has been super wonderful, as always. I always love talking with you and spending time.
Thank you so much.